Okay, white guilt.
Let's talk about it. So, of course, this is an election year, and I'm not gonna get into the whole rigmarole of whatever. I'm just gonna say I like this T-shirt because it says "Vote like your ancestors died for it," because they did. And I'm not just talking about black ancestors. I'm talking about female, the women who fought and died. The suffrage movement died, not just fought, were killed, and many times, or either their husbands were threatened because they'll say, well, we're not going to come to your store anymore if your wife doesn't get online. If your wife tries to vote, we're going to make sure that you have no business anymore. We're going to tear down your house. We're going to do, you know what I mean? They were threatened. It was horrific. So women trying to get the right to vote, and then black people getting the right to vote. And guess what? White women were able to get the right to vote, but black women were not. So we didn't get the right to vote until much later. You see what I'm saying? So that's something to keep in mind as well with regards to who can vote and who can't. So I do want to talk about voter suppression, something that I experienced personally when I lived in Florida during the time of Al Gore running. And I remember the day the vote. This is why I'm glad they have early voting now, because you cannot possibly have everybody vote on that one day. It's impossible for everyone to get off from work at the same time. So I'm glad they have early voting now. But back then they did not, and I lived in Florida. And I did not have a car. I still don't have a car. I've never owned a car. But I was riding my bike to the voting place, and I was going to vote. And there were a lot of black people that were turned away. And we were like, why? Oh, because this is not your place where you're supposed to vote. You're going to have to vote at this address instead. So right there, the average black person who took off from work just to try to get there, they don't have time to go over across town to go to the other place to vote. You see what I'm saying? So right there, that's a form of suppression. You see what I'm saying? So me, on my little bike, I went ahead and went to the other place. And even there, it was a long, ridiculous line or whatever. But I was a yoga teacher at the time, so I didn't have to, you know what I mean? I didn't have like a job where I only had like a 30-minute lunch or whatever. So I went ahead and stayed online. But I just thought about all those people who were sent away and just probably couldn't even vote that way. Childcare, going back to work, whatever the case is, there were a lot of people that they, just that simple thing of saying, this is not your place. And I double checked. I made sure, because I'm not from Florida, so I did everything to make sure that wherever I'm supposed to register to vote, I knew my correct address. I'm like, this is the place I was told. I even showed them my sheet. They're like, no, sorry, it's been changed. You understand what I'm saying?
Were they turning, was it only black people?
It was anybody that they thought was going to be voting Democrat. Put it that way.
And you know, Florida decided it all.
Yes, it did.
Wow.
I'm just saying from my personal experience. Yeah. The fact that they made me go to a different place, I'm sure they lost a lot of people who would have voted that day, but they had to get back to work.
Yep. Yeah. Have you or family members experienced any other kind of voter suppression?
I mean, to be honest, because we don't talk about it, you know what I mean? So I don't know if my other, because I wasn't living in New York at the time. I probably, if I had had a conversation with my cousins or whatever, both my parents are dead. So I don't have, my oldest brother is dead. My other brother is developmentally disabled. So I don't, you know what I mean? So I have nobody as far as family to talk to about it.
Gotcha.
But I just know that right there, I could tell there were so many people. And if it happened in that little place where I was in Winter Park, Florida. I know it happened in other parts of Florida as well.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But the point being is that you got to do whatever you got to do to get out there.
Do early voting, please. Don't try to wait till that actual day, that Tuesday. Please, early vote. If you got to vote from home and send the thing in, whatever, don't just wait till that one day. Because that was the thing. If I had early voting, I would have had time to say, okay, well tomorrow then I'll just go to whatever. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But because they didn't really have that back then. So even this last primary, I made sure I voted in the early voting thing. I didn't wait till the actual day. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Because they'll do some little tricks and schemes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I think I love your shirt, but the important part of it that we forget is the history behind it, so that we do now have a voice and that we do now have power collectively, and we can't just think that it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, and your voice matters.
Yeah.
And I feel like some laws are being put back into place to suppress people's votes even more.
Even more, even now, yes.
So we've got to do whatever we got to do
Yeah.
to vote.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yep.
A lot of things in society are nude pantyhose, nude makeup, nude foundation. I've seen all kinds of nude for whom.